Every militant on the face of the earth will understand if you go and join ISIS, if you take up arms and wage jihad against innocent Americans, you are signing your death warrant. In the days that follow, we will take on the EPA and the CFPB and the alphabet soup of federal agencies that have descended like locusts on small businesses, killing jobs all across this country. You know, a few years back, I was out in West Texas, and I asked folks there, I said, what's the difference between regulators and locusts? I said, well, the thing is, you can't use pesticide on the regulators. And this old West Texas farmer, he leaned back, said, wanna bet? And in the days that follow, I will go to Congress and we will pass fundamental tax reform. We will pass a simple flat tax. So that every American can fill out his taxes on a postcard. And when we do that, we should abolish the IRS. There are about 90,000 employees at the IRS. We need to padlock that building. Take all 90,000 and put them down on our southern border. Now, to our friends in the media, I say that somewhat tongue-in-cheek. But you know, if you think about it, sir, if you imagine you traveled thousands of miles in the blazing sun, you're swimming across the Rio Grande, and the first thing you see is 90,000 IRS agents. You turn around and go home too. Now some of y'all may be thinking, all of this makes sense to me. It's basic common sense. Live within your means. Don't bankrupt our kids and grandkids. Follow the Constitution. But can we do it? You know, Scripture tells us there's nothing new under the sun. I think where we are today is very, very much like the late 1970s. I think the parallels with the Jimmy Carter administration are uncanny. The same failed economic policies, the same misery, stagnation, and malaise, the same feckless and naive foreign policy.
Yeah.
In fact, the exact same countries, Russia and Iran, openly laughing at and mocking the President of the United States. Now, why is it that that analogy gives me so much hope and optimism? Because we know how that story ended. All across this country, millions of men and women rose up and became the Reagan Revolution. And it didn't come from Washington. Washington despised Ronald Reagan. By the way, if you see a candidate who Washington embraces, run and hide. It came from the American people and it turned this country around. We went from misery and stagnation and malaise to booming economic growth, to millions lifted out of poverty into prosperity and the American dream. We went from our hostages languishing in Iran to winning the Cold War and tearing the Berlin Wall to the ground. Why am I so optimistic? Because the same thing is happening again. All across Georgia, all across this country. Why am I so optimistic? Because we're in an airplane hangar instead of a Denny's. You know, when we launched this campaign, March 23rd at Liberty University, the New York Times promptly opined, Cruz cannot win. Because the Washington elites despise him. I kind of thought that was the whole point of the campaign. Look, if you think things are going great in Washington, that we need to keep headed in the same basic direction, just kind of fiddle around the edges, then I ain't your guy. On the other hand, if you think Washington is fundamentally broken, that there is a bipartisan corruption of career politicians in both parties that get in bed with lobbyists and special interests and grow and grow and grow government, and we need to take power out of Washington and back to we the people, that is what this campaign is all about. Let me close with this. You know, for all of us here tonight, freedom is not some abstract concept we read about in a school book. Freedom is real, it's personal in our lives, in our families. You know, for me, I think about my dad. My dad was born and raised in Cuba. And as a kid, as a teenager, he fought in the Cuban Revolution. And he was imprisoned and tortured when he was 17 years old. He was lying on the floor of a Cuban jail cell. He was covered in mud and blood and grime. His nose was broken, his teeth were shattered out of his mouth. And he remembers thinking, I don't have any kids. Nobody depends on me. It doesn't matter if I live or I die. But thankfully, God had different plans for my father. He was released from that jail cell and he fled Batista, he fled Cuba. He came to America in 1957. He was just 18 years old. He couldn't speak English. He had nothing. Had $100 in his underwear. I don't actually advise carrying money in your underwear. And he got a job washing dishes. Made 50 cents an hour. And he worked full time. He paid his way through school. He and my mom together went on to start a small business. So I grew up in Texas as the son of two small business owners, seeing the ups and downs, the triumphs and challenges of running a small business. Today, my dad is a pastor. He travels the country preaching the gospel. Now, my whole life, my dad has been my hero. But you know what I find so incredible about his story? How commonplace it is. Every one of us here, we have a story just like that in our backgrounds. Some of us, it's us. Others, it's our parents. Others, it's our great-great-great-grandparents. But what ties all of us together as Americans, every one of us, is we are the children of those who risked everything for freedom. And that is why I'm so optimistic. Because it is the fundamental DNA of what it means to be an American. to value liberty and opportunity above all else. You know, when I was a kid, my dad used to say to me over and over again, when we faced oppression in Cuba, I had a place to flee to. If we lose our freedom here, where do we go? That is why all of us are here tonight. Because we are not prepared to go quietly into the night. We are not willing to give up on our kids and grandkids. And I tell you this tonight, if we come together and stand together for freedom, if we stand together for the Constitution, if we stand as one, as we the people, we will bring back that last best hope for mankind. We will bring back that shining city on a hill that